Hi, and welcome to PSY 360 Cognitive Science. I'm Vaughn Becker, and I'll be teaching this class. And this initial lecture is just an overview of what we'll be doing. This course is about the scientific study of the mind. Cognitive science traditionally is an interdisciplinary endeavor and includes philosophy, psychology, linguistics, artificial intelligence, anthropology, and neuroscience. This figure that you see over here comes out of a meeting that they had in the 1980s, a Sloan Foundation meeting where they tried to formalize everything, but when you get a bunch of people from different disciplines together, it often doesn't go terribly well. There's no doubt, however, that cognitive science has been tremendously productive. It just isn't a centralized thing. We're going to explore each of these traditional areas as well as emerging fields. Evolutionary psychology in particular has supplanted a lot of what anthropology used to do, and dynamical systems approaches or complexity science have also affected virtually every area. We will also be exploring how emotional, social, and cultural forces have forced cognitive science to broaden its traditional perspective, because when cognitive science started, they tried to avoid dealing with emotion, social, and cultural forces, and just bracket the mind and look at pure mental processes. Nowadays, we realize that the mind is embedded in a social and emotional world, and we have to take account of that. In this course, you're going to read texts, you're going to watch video material, you'll listen to lectures that I post and some TED lectures and things like that. That's part of the video material. And most importantly, we'll participate in some activities, demonstrations, and experiments that are going to reveal the methods of cognitive science. And through this, explore how we draw inferences about the nature of the mind's operations, because in my opinion, it's a fascinating endeavor. You may be wondering who I am. Well, I am a cognitive scientist and a social psychologist, so I'm well equipped to teach this class. In fact, my experience covers pretty much the entire spectrum of what cognitive science is. So my primary work explores how emotion affects cognition. My theoretical approach blends evolutionary psychology and dynamical systems theory, or complexity science. I took my undergraduate degree in philosophy, and my master's work was in psycholinguistics. And my latest work uses neuroscience, electrophysiology of the brain, EEG, and also involves programming simulations that use artificial intelligence, or actually artificial not so intelligent, but it's still the same kind of programming. The agents that I use are just rather stupid. In this course, we're going to use the textbook Cognitive Science: An Introduction to the Study of the Mind. You want to get the second edition because it's much more current, just published last year. As I noted earlier, in this class, we're going to have 4 components: narrated lectures, videos and talks, with study guides. I have study guides prepared for these videos and other video material, and you'll go through and fill these out, but you don't have to turn them in. They're just for your studying, so you can use them whenever you come to the exam, because the exams will be open book, open note, though they are difficult. You'll have to look at your textbook, and then we'll do these demonstrations and experiments. This, by the way, is what the second edition of this textbook looks like. And so when you go to your syllabus, you'll see that for each week, I'm calling each week in this 6-week session a unit. There are several modules, and so we have week 1 here. We have week 1 here, but then the modules are 1, 2, and 3. There are some objectives and the assessments that we'll do. Each week there'll be some sort of task that you run through and some sort of exam at the end of the week. And then there's a whole set of materials here. There are narrated PowerPoint lectures that you can find in Blackboard, and then a series of videos with with a study guide that you can follow along with. I've tried to put together an amount of work that is comparable to what you get in the regular 15-week session, but I've also tried to make sure that it's possible to do this in 4 or so hours of work a day. It's an accelerated course. And so I actually paced this out myself, and I know that this can be done, and that includes a liberal amount of time for reading. A principal goal of this course is going to be to expose you not just the facts of that cognitive science has uncovered, but also to show you how cognitive science is done. And to this end, I'm going to have the class members participate in a series of studies. They'll be online demonstrations or experiments or surveys. You'll be able to access these through the Blackboard site, and they'll be collectively worth 50 points, which is what an exam is worth. You will get these points no matter what you do as long as you complete the task on time, so they're not going to be graded for content. We will replace your lowest exam grade with these 50 points. And so you can think of it as a free 50 points that knocks out your lowest exam grade, or dropping the lowest exam grade. I'm going to endeavor to make these all educational experiences. They won't be grueling experiments or demonstrations. You won't be turning wooden pegs for an hour or anything like that. And when possible, I'm going to try to bring our discussion and our lectures back to these studies, and I'll tie them into the key themes of the book. There will probably also be questions on the exam about these, or additional freestanding questions on maybe some sort of supplemental quiz or something that I give you. Coming to grades, the first thing that you need to note is that there are no late exam submissions, and if we have any discussion posts, no late posts either. You have to accomplish the assignments within the given unit on time, and there are no exceptions to this. This is a fast-paced class, and you have to keep up. The grading scale is a standard grading scale with no plus or minus grades. Some more details. There's going to be 6 exams altogether, 1 each covering the material for each of the 1 week period, and then the possibility of a few questions from previous weeks. Exams will be posted on Sunday of each week, and they're going to be due to be completed by 10 p.m. on Tuesday night. So class begins on July 3rd. On Tuesday night, 1 week later, you have to have the exam done. And so here's a schedule. This is in your syllabus, but you can see exams are posted and the Sundays that are in yellow, and then the exams are due at 10 p.m. on these Tuesdays. Exams will be multiple choice. Note that this does not mean that they are easy. My multiple choice questions are challenging, and if you haven't read the book and don't have your notes in front of you, you're going to have a hard time answering some of these questions. Exams are based primarily on the textbook and on the videos, the study guides, and some of the experiments. These exams are all going to be timed at 1 hour. There'll be 50 to 55 questions. If there are 55 questions, I'll scale it down to 50 points for each exam. These exams are timed at 1 hour, so even though it's an open book, open note exam, which it sort of has to be if you're taking this online, if you don't know your material, you're going to be in bad shape because you only have 1 hour. So if you have to look every question up, you're not going to be able to do it. So this 1 hour time limit is a hard time limit. For each minute that you go over this, I start subtracting 1 point off per minute. So you have to end the exam at 1 hour. Make sure you're timing it independently. You also can't consult with other students regarding the questions on the exam. This should be obvious, but I do need to say. General strategy for each of the modules, and note that there's more than one module per week. The modules are sort of thematically grouped. What I want you to do is first listen to the narrated lecture and take notes by hand if possible. And then And so each of these narrated lectures for each of the modules is only going to be about 20 minutes. So it shouldn't be too much. Then I want you to begin reading the text. A good strategy is to first skim the text, look at things that are in bold, look at images and the captions to the figures, and read the material at the end that summarizes everything. But then go back and actually read it. And take your time. Be an engaged reader. Ask yourself questions as you're going through the text. This is going to make it much easier to review it before the exam. After you've done this, now I want you to watch the videos and fill out the study guides that go along with these. And keep in mind that you don't need to turn those study guides in. You just keep them for the test. The test is open book, open note, so you'll want to have all those study guide questions and notes from the lecture, and you'll want to have reviewed the text. Because if you get to a question that you can't remember, particularly a factual question, as long as you read the text and are familiar with it, you should be able to look back and find it relatively quickly. And that is, after all, how things work in the real world. You generally have a few minutes to look something up. Now, some of the questions, on the other hand, are going to be conceptual questions, so you really do need to be familiar with the material in order to answer those.